Outside cuts on sheet metal are similar to inside cuts, but they're not the same. And after making how to make metal project enclosures, I was going to make a video that included how to make metal project enclosure penetrations. But then I received a comment from Hamaz Majid, and I hope I said that right. Very nice and useful videos, especially for my kind of projects. But where is the cut for the LCD? Which starts from center and not from the corners. I waited for it to end of video. I'm really thankful that you watched till the end of the video, and I'm grateful that you took the time to comment. And with this in consideration, I thought that it's a subject that's worth looking into by itself. So this is how to make inside cuts on sheet metal by hand. This is Cossador Jonathan here. So there's a multitude of reasons why you would want to put an inside cut onto sheet metal, whether it be for metal project enclosures or any other type of penetration. And cutting from the inside outwards is not the same as cutting from the outside in, and it takes a little bit of out of the box thinking. Now, I'm not against power tools, and a jigsaw or a rotary tool is definitely up for the task. But for the sake of doing the basics, I'm going to do this by hand. So that means only hand tools and no power tools. I'd like you to think about that and just keep watching. So let's get started. I need to put some lines onto the sheet metal, and this is going to represent where I want to cut them. Even though they're not measured, I'm going to aim to cut on the inside of the line. If you'd like more info on marking up, please check out my other sheet metal videos, particularly the bending and metal enclosure video. I'll put links in the description and a couple of cards on this video. Now I have the sheet metal marked up, I'm going to cut these with a couple of different methods. First up, the metal shears method. And the question is, how do you put a hole into sheet metal without a drill? Common sense would dictate a punch, but really it's possible to make a hole with anything that's hard and sharp enough. And I'm going to use a piece of 25mm by 25mm angle and a hammer just to prove a point. Once I've made a hole that's big enough to pass the shears into, I cut outwards in a spiral pattern. I find cutting from the center outwards minimizes errors and deformation. Once I get close to the line, I cut onto the edge of the line where it is accessible by the tool. When I'm doing these cuts, it's easy to see the limitations of metal shears, because metal shears are typically right-handed or left-handed, and that's not which hand you use them in, but it's the orientation of the cutters. But there's a way around this with metal shears. I rotate the metal shears into an upside down position, and I cut the remaining corners from underneath. And it's done. With the metal shears, I can get close to the line, but the shears do leave marks and deform the sheet metal. But this is not a huge problem. I'll show you how to fix this later in the video, so keep watching. Now, method 2, with a chisel. I know that there's a lot of people out there that are going to say, Jonathan, what are you doing? But hang on a second. I'm not saying to use your best woodworking chisel, but maybe one that you don't like very much. And if you just can't do that to a chisel, consider finding a bit of hardened metal, sharpen it up, and use that. With the chisel, I don't need to start with the hole. I just go straight up to the line, I slightly angle the chisel, and I gently tap it with the hammer, making small cuts along the line. This piece of sacrificial timber that I have underneath is a little bit too hard, and I'm having to put a little too much force to punch through. So I swap it out for a softer bit of ply, and I continue cutting the sheet metal, paying attention to the edge of the line and keeping inside the corners. I do this with each side of the square. And I make sure that the offcut is detached, and it's done. The chisel method is great because the chisel and the hammer are the only tools that are required to cut the material. However, it does deform the sheet metal significantly more than metal shears. But it can be fixed, which leaves us with finishing. I'm using a flat, solid piece of metal. I place the sheet metal on top, and I gently flatten any of the deformed parts. I move around the square, ensuring that it's all flat, and checking both sides. Now I'm happy with the flatness of the piece. I'll file to the line. This might take a few passes, but I'm not trying to take all of the material off at once. I just want to meet the line. Now I've got to the point where the part looks flat and it's filed up to the line. When it's shiny like this, it looks perfect. But let's check the quality of this cut. I spray on a bit of black gloss and I help it dry a little bit. Now I can see that the edges are still curved in a little bit. If I required better quality than this, I would need to check flatness with a rule as I'm flattening it. But this quality is good enough for me, because most mounted parts have edges or bezels that hide all of these errors. So which method is better and when would I use each? It's clear that the shears do a better job, solely because less labor is required, and I could quite easily do this if the material was folded. But the shears have a major limitation, their size. Whatever hole I cut, I need to be able to fit the shears into. And this is where the chisel method is superior. With the chisel method, I can punch the required size and file what remains. So really, which is better is dependent on the task at hand. Whenever we do something, we want to do it the right way. And it's important to remember that the right way is your best available method. And if this video was useful to you, please like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. And if you would like me to make something else, just drop a comment below. And remember guys, break it till you make it, and I'll see you next time.